Hi, welcome back to Today's Your Day.
Hi, Dr. Saira.
Hi, Jenna.
So excited to be back
So excited.
for a revolutionary episode.
A whole new idea. But before we start, let's tell you a little bit about who we are.
Oh, please.
Just in case.
Yes.
Right?
Why don't you start?
I am a transpersonal psychotherapist. So I help people get through their problems while connecting them to their spirituality. And my favorite thing to do is workshops and seminars and lectures.
Oh, very interesting. I'm a couples therapist, so I help people to live happier relationships, to be happier with themselves, to bring their best self out in their relationships, and to really heal all aspects of their life through the systems that they're a part of.
And Jenna loves being on TV.
I love being on TV, and so does Dr. Saira.
I do. And just in case you haven't seen our past episodes, we wanted to let you know who we are. There are other episodes, so check it out on our YouTube channel.
There are quite a few other episodes. You could binge watch us right now. It'll probably last you all day.
Totally could.
Yeah.
So today's your day.
To make friends with failure.
What?
Why would someone want to do that?
Don't you want to avoid failure at all costs?
I thought so.
That's what we both thought. But we were wrong.
We were so wrong.
So we want to tell you about how to make friends with failure. First, we'll talk about what failure is, and then how do you actually make friends with it.
And the reason we were so wrong is that when you try to avoid failure at all costs, guess what? You take zero risks.
Right.
Like, if we were scared of failure, Dr. Saira, we would not be here right now.
No.
Like, I would not be here right now.
We would not be here. We would not be where we are in our careers. We would not be where we are in our family, in our relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I would be working just some random job that didn't fulfill me.
Yeah.
I would be stuck in the same relationship I was in when I was 20.
Oh, jeez. Remember those?
Because that took a lot of courage to leave.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, the thing about failure is something can feel like failure in the moment. So, for example, like I failed in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back later in your life, think, oh, my goodness, I'm so glad I failed in that relationship because otherwise I wouldn't be, happily married to the man that I could never imagine. It was so much bigger than the man of my dreams, right?
Yeah, you're so right. So let's talk about what failure is and what failure is not.
Okay. So there's a quote that we heard this morning.
Shout out to your mom.
Shout out, Mom. Thanks for the quote.
So it went, failure is not falling down. Failure is staying down.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about that, right? It's not about making a mistake or, getting off track or any of that. It's about when you let that then define your future actions.
Exactly. So when you make a mistake and then say, okay, well, because I made this mistake and this thing did not work out, I'm never going to do it again and I'm just going to play it safe. Because it feels so horrible to make that mistake, especially if it's like a public failure or especially, if it's like something that you really wanted to do. Like, for instance, Altez and I started making this show, right? Like, my fiance and I started doing this YouTube show. And the first one was really great. And the second one was not so great. And honestly, after the second one, I was like, oh my God, I never want to do this again. Because it felt so horrible to, receive, not that anyone was like, oh, this wasn't good, but it just wasn't as greatly received as our first one. And to me, that felt like a failure. And so right now, even at this very moment, I'm struggling with thinking, do I keep going? Because I see this potential for this amazing thing that we could do together.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I just say, you know what, it feels really bad to fail at this, so I'm just gonna stop and erase it from my YouTube channel and never go on.
Here's how I will answer your question with a story of my own.
Please.
So last week there was a potluck and I had to cook for the potluck. And I really wasn't in the mood to cook, but I knew I had committed to taking certain things, like a dessert and a main dish. I committed to that. And so I'd marinated the meat the night before, and it was time to cook, and I really didn't want to cook, but I cooked anyway, and it turned out so bland. And the cookies burnt. So now I've decided to never cook again.
Oh, that...
Ridiculous, right? Obviously not. Obviously I'm going to say, oh, oops, that sucked, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's like your show.
Exactly.
Right? Sometimes it's a little bit bland, it's a little bit not. You burnt the cookies, and you're like, okay, it doesn't mean you're never, ever, ever going to make chocolate chip cookies again. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You just have to do it again.
Just do it again.
Right. And my son told me, he's like, well, the reason that they burned was we made them too small this time. Mm-hmm. So next time we'll try something different.
Yeah. So basically, seeing that failure as really just an opportunity to see what you could do better next time.
Exactly. And refine yourself, right? Refine your process. And so if that second show wasn't that great, you want to look back and say, well, something was really working in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that people liked about that? And can we replicate that or do it even better in a different way?
And I tried replicating it for the second one, which I think was the problem. But I think what's missing is the authenticity. So, you know, like that's really real. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a book called Fail Fast, Fail Often. I can't remember who it's by now.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good. And what this guy says is basically that you have to think on your checklist of things that you're doing to get to your dream. The first thing on the checklist is going to be try it. The second thing on the checklist is going to be fail. Like you have to almost write that in because you know that the first time it's not going to work exactly the way it's supposed to.
Right.
And sometimes we get stuck in this thing of like planning and planning and planning because we're so scared that it's not going to work. So like we try to plan our way into it when really all we need to do is just do it, fail, and then refine and do it again.
This is what we call a maker mindset, right? So my son's in a program where they're teaching them about innovating and learning and doing and building. And when we I was telling you the story, when we kind of went in for the initial interview, the teacher was just watching him play and he was 6, right? And she said to me, he's a bit of a perfectionist, isn't he? And I said, yes, he is. Like, so proud of myself. Like, I've made a kid who's a perfectionist. And she's like, yeah, that's going to be a problem in this program. And I was like, huh? What do you mean? I thought the whole point of school was like to be the best and to get 100% and be number one. And she explained to me that when you have a maker mindset, right, when you have a creator mindset, when you're an innovator, an entrepreneur, you have to be able to deal with failure in a way that you don't make the failure mean something about you. Yeah. You don't let it affect your self-esteem. You just see that, oh, this particular idea kind of didn't work, and you move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So if we are trying to become, builders of knowledge and creators of knowledge rather than just consumers that just drink everything in like whatever's around us, but actually add something to the world, then we're going to have to know that sometimes what you add to the world is burnt cookies.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh, oops, sorry for the burnt cookies. Let's try a little bit better next time and not say, okay, that's it. I'm never going to try that again.
I'm sure Martha Stewart has burnt some cookies in her day.
Right? She probably has. Yeah. If you even think about like the first person who ever thought about inventing or making bread or making cookies, like how did that even happen?
Yeah, they probably went through a process and tried it again and again and again.
Right,
and again.
Like too much salt, too much this, and then somebody like dropped a bag of chocolate chips in there. They're like, oh, wait a minute, this is it! The chocolate chips were the missing ingredient.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. People that have invented anything, they come to the table with their idea of something spectacular. And then they have to fail and fail and fail and fail and fail.
Right.
Until they finally make it.
Like the Harry Potter lady, how many times did she?
Oh my gosh, I think like 38 rejections or something before someone actually
Imagine
wanted her
if our Harry
book.
Potter lady, what's J.K. Rowling?
J.K. Rowling, yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't call her the Harry Potter lady. But imagine if she, after like rejection number 5, she was like, okay, well, I guess, there's no story here.
Yeah.
Nobody's seeing my vision and I'm just going to give up. Like, we wouldn't have Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Like, Harry Potter's now, like, inside of me.
Yeah. And it's...
Are you a Gryffindor?
Yeah.
Or a Slytherin?
Sometimes I'm a Slytherin.
Sometimes. You have to own your inner Slytherin. We all have parts of...
Yes, we all have parts of all 4 of those.
Right. Well, that's the point. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the Harry Potter tangent.
No.
I'm a fan.
It's perfect, yeah. And Gryffindors are brave, right? And sometimes to get to where you need to go, actually all the time, you have to be freaking brave. Mm-hmm. And it is scary as hell.
And how many times did Harry Potter fail in the
series?
God. Like, that was the whole point of this series, right? Like, he tries something and he messes it up. And then somebody else tries something and they mess it up. And that's the whole point. Like, that's
through
the human...
all the books. That was it. That's failing.
But that's the human condition, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call the hero's journey, where you try and you fail and then you learn and you adapt and you get better and stronger and you get back up.
Yeah. And when things are too easy, it is not always the best thing in the world for you. Like, I knew that, and I think you were even talking about this before, that school was really easy, right? Like, for me too, school was super, like, it was a breeze. And then I got to university, and I swear I failed, like so many of my courses that first year because I never learned how to study. Like, I didn't know how to study.
Right.
And so... honestly, for the next couple years, I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm not good at school. Like, that's the end of it. It didn't occur to me to like try to pick up a book and read and then go back and do it again. I was just like, oh, that's it. I'm not good at school.
I'm not good at this.
We're done.
Yeah. That happened to me in stats. So in
stats
undergrad, but it's not. So in undergrad, I did my stats course and it was I was miserable. I could not figure it out. I was like, what is this Z score? I don't understand. And it just like, I somehow got through it, like minimally, and it was done. Undergrad, it was a required course for my psychology degree. I did it. Then I go into my master's program, and there's stats again. And I was like, no, I don't want to do stats. But this time I had an incredible teacher. Mm-hmm. I said to myself, my brain has evolved. I'm different than I was 3 years ago. I'm going to give this a chance. The textbook he used was called Statistics for People Who Hate Statistics.
That sounds nice.
So I was like, okay, well, he's on to me. I don't like statistics, and this is the right textbook. And all of a sudden, one day, I was like in the middle of a question, like one of those whatever it's called. What are they called?
I don't know.
Problems?
Yes.
A problem. I was in the middle of a math problem. It's something funny that they call it that, hey, and that we totally blanked on that.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of a problem, and it just like, light bulb. And it totally made sense. And there was like a Z score, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I completely understand this. And it changed my entire perception of how capable I am.
Yeah, so the difference, it doesn't seem, was really about the book or about the teacher. It was your mentality going into it that, right. Okay, I have evolved. Yes, I may not have been good at this before, but I'm going to try again.
I'm going to try again. And I'm going to give it another chance.
And that is the risk.
And I got it. And I got like an 86% in that class.
Good for you. Amazing.
I know. Thank you, stats teacher. I can't even remember your name. Shawnee Robbins. Thank you.
So that's the difference, right? It's that mentality that I think it's that belief in like your inner strength that, okay, you know what? Maybe this won't work the first time. Maybe I'll go into it. I'll give it my all and it's going to just fail miserably. Mm-hmm. But that's okay because I can get through it no matter what, mm-hmm. right? And that is the type of courage that you need to take any big risk. Even like there's some people that have been stuck in bad relationships for years on end and they just can't seem to make that move from like failing at this relationship to failing on their own, right? Mm-hmm. Either way, it's like they're stuck in this thing where things don't feel right. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that before when you're in this period of life where things just don't feel right and you need to make a change, but you just like you're struggling to find that strength to know what do I do? Like mm-hmm. how do I do things differently so they start to work again?
And sometimes what you do when you're in that period is you just numb out. That's what we did. We totally just numbed out. We were like, when I was in that period in my life, I was just partying and having fun and like getting invited to things and not really thinking about like my life or my direction or my destination. Just like, woo! Like I'm sure you had that experience in your 20s. Those of you who are in your 20s, it's just like, wow, we're going to do whatever, go crazy. And forgetting that, well, every year that passes by is one less year for me to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Exactly. I have friends and colleagues who, as soon as they graduated, they got on it. They got writing their books. They just moved on their next steps. Mm-hmm. And here we are 10 years after graduation of, our PhDs, and they're thriving, right? They're published authors. They're professors at universities. They're thriving. Then there's other ones of us who are like, well, I don't know. Let me just party for a bit. Mm-hmm. Right? Let me just get some random old job and see how that works out. And there's no vision. Yeah. And so when there's no vision, there's no direction. It's like time is just passing by.
And when you don't have a vision, I really think it is that fear of failure because it's not that you don't have a vision. It's that you haven't sat down and thought to yourself, I can actually do the things that I want to do.
Right. It's like, I don't even want to think about that because what if I can't get there?
Exactly.
So I'd rather not even try.
Yeah. And you're saying that you numbed out. For me, my process was that I would just be in a relationship and I would just kind of anchor myself to the person that I was with. So if he wanted to go to med school here, then I was like, oh, well, I don't want to get too attached to anything. So I will just do this type of thing so that I can follow him there. Mm. So it was never I was never thinking for myself. I was always thinking for that person. And it wasn't until recently that I started to think for myself. And it's amazing because when I started to think for myself and I created this huge vision of what I wanted to do, that's when I found a relationship that actually he stayed with me throughout my journey and we were able to do it together.
Right.
But it's a very different feeling when you own your potential and when you own the fact that you do want things in life and you are going to go for them no matter what.
And the when I was in it and when you're talking about this, I could imagine some of our viewers might be thinking, well, that's not fair because now you're the one in charge and he has to follow you. But there's this really sweet spot. One of my teachers, Chuck Spizano, he calls it interdependence, right? Where it's a win-win, mm-hmm. where both partners are actually getting their dreams coming true and there doesn't feel like a compromise. That word compromise, it really gets under my skin because I think that there has to be balance in a relationship, but I don't think that there has to be compromise. I think both of you could have what you want, and there will be times when it's more about them, or there will be times when it's more about you, but that's about balance, right? It's not about giving something up so that the other person can have their dreams. There's
Yeah.
actually a place, and what it requires is that you own your life and you own your vision.
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, I was not putting out a vision about finances, right? Because I thought, well, that's kind of my husband's department. Like he's in charge of that. I'll just put out a vision for like how I want our family life to look. Until I started owning the finances as well, our vision as a couple couldn't evolve because it was just like he was at this level, I was like not dealing with it. And when I joined board, it's like we both went to that next level of, well, what could we do if we were both paying full attention to our finances, not just him?
And it almost seems to me like by you getting that vision, you actually pulled him up, right? Because he was kind of plateaued somewhere.
Yeah. And again, it was around failure because I wasn't sure if I was very good with money, right? Because I'd had these experiences in my past where I hadn't been very good with money. I'd failed, if you will, with like, big debt, right? I mean, it was a debt that I accrued for getting a degree.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's a big failure because look at that big number of $150,000 that I owe, and I don't know how I'm ever going to pay that down.
Yeah.
Well, we paid it down.
Exactly.
Right? It's done. Like, it's over. And what it took was both of us aligning to that together and not just, like, hoping that somehow our paychecks will eventually pay that off.
And sometimes we're scared to take that next step because I think the scary thing is that we might leave people behind, right? I think you might have thought, oh, if I decide that this is my financial goal, what if Faison doesn't agree? And what if we separate because of that? Like things are going okay right now, so we'll just keep it as it is. But you decided to step up. And what happened is when you stepped up, he stepped up.
Right.
Right? So,
and the fear is, well, what if I make that decision and the people around me, the people I love, the people I like feel like I couldn't live without, don't want that too. That's the fear. And that's, I think, sometimes why we don't even set a goal because, well, what if we end up being alone in that?
Yeah.
You know, when I launched my new website, so I've been talking to my husband for, he's a great, like, he's a web design guy. He can totally do this stuff. And he did my first website. And I knew it was time for an upgrade. And I knew it was time for the next level. And so I asked him if he would help me. And he was busy and he was doing other stuff. And so finally I just hired someone and got started on it. And it was about, 2 or 3 months of me working with this other guy and totally, like, the two of us figuring it out. And I paid for it and I went for it. And then about, 3 months later, all of a sudden Faison was no longer as busy. And he turned back around and now he's helping me again. Right? And so, but if I had just waited and not done anything, then I don't think we would be where we're at. Because somebody had to kind of get that momentum started. Yeah. Somebody had to say, okay, this is my goal. I'm fumbling through. I don't have any idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to try. I'm going to fail. And there were some pretty big failures in that process, but we got through it.
Exactly.
And now that I'm comfortable where I'm at, other people are joining in and saying, I want a part of that.
And if you hadn't taken that step, not only would you not have the amazing website that you have right now, but you'd probably be feeling a little bit resentful.
Oh, yeah. Because I'd be like, nobody's helping me. Why do I have to do this on my own? Nobody's stepping up and nobody's saving me. And, I've had friends and family members who have kind of been stuck in that rut. And they'll say things like, well, it's not like you're going to help me. Nobody's helping me. I'm in this alone. And that's, like, you can say it with that energy, or you could say, well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's my life. Everybody else is living their life. I get to choose what I want from my life and step into it and do it.
Yeah.
Right? And do it. And don't wait for somebody else to, like, do it for you.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to.
And there's those situations where you might even have people in your life who actively don't support you.
Yeah.
Like, they're actively like, no, you shouldn't do this. This dream is stupid.
It's a waste of your time.
Yeah, there are people in your life that might say that.
Mm-hmm.
That might say, oh, that's a crazy dream. We don't have enough money for that. We don't have enough time for that.
You're not talented enough to do that.
Yeah, who's going to take care of our kids?
Right.
Who's going to, and there's all of these, like, there's naysayers in your life that will try to bring you down. This is, like, it's true.
It's a reality.
It is a reality.
Right.
And so when that happens, you have to buckle down and be even stronger, like.
And it's hard. It's hard really when that person is, like, really close to you and really influential, because we tend to think that the people around us, sometimes, not always, but sometimes we have this thought when we're not feeling that great that the people around us are seeing us better than we see ourselves.
Like, if they think I can't do it,
then clearly they're seeing something I'm not seeing.
Then obviously I'm not good enough to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a mistake.
And when you allow yourself to be stuck in that position where you like we've talked a little bit about putting up your boundaries, where you let other people's negative impressions of you get you down, you will continue to stay exactly where you are.
Right.
And if you are starting to realize that you're not okay with staying exactly where you are, then the very first step is to realize that even if you fail, the mere act of doing something will bring you up further. Like, it'll bring you one step up that ladder.
Just taking an action, even if it's not kind of well thought through and well strategically planned, or, you know, with my clients, when they're kind of stuck in that rut, I ask them to do one thing, right? So something that they like to do. Usually it's something as simple as take a walk.
Yeah.
Be outside for 7 to 10 minutes. Just take a walk and notice the trees around. Like, very simple. Notice the trees around you. And that simple act of doing something different, you can't really fail in taking a walk. Okay, like what? What's the worst thing that could happen? You stub your toe. It's raining, right? Like, really, what's the worst thing that could happen?
And just doing that one thing leads to more and more action.
That's very low risk. And that's how we start, right? And some of us, like Jena, is a person who will, like, go for, like, the high risk thing and just dive right in and be like, I don't care if there's a big failure, I'll go for it. Some of us need, like, a little baby step.
But I wasn't like that all the time, Saira. No? I was not always like that. No, hell no.
Oh, tell me more about this.
Well, I'm telling you, I was in a 5-year-long relationship that sucked the life out of me. And I honestly said to my sister one day, I said, if I end up married with kids with this guy, it is literally just because I'm a coward. Like, it is just because I'm not courageous enough to step up and say, I've had it. Like, I want something more. Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Right.
You know, like,
So what did you do?
So, well, it took me another couple years after that. Like, it wasn't easy, right? Like, it was that constantly mulling over, well, what if I leave this person and I'm alone for the rest of my life? What if no one else loves me? What if I'm unlovable? You know, it was really tough. And one day I just snapped. And I think that that was the beginning. That was when I realized that it doesn't matter what choice I make. What matters is that I have the strength to follow through. Like, even if I had stayed in that relationship, I'm telling you, yeah, I would have had the strength. Like, I would have had the strength to suffer through it, and it would have ended up maybe being okay. But it wasn't the vision that I had for my life.
Right.
I could have stayed, but I chose to leave. And I think taking that risk, that's what changed everything for me. Because when I took that risk, I started believing in myself and realizing that even though it was really hard, I made it. And, you know, then I went into school, and it wasn't the right thing for me. Like, it wasn't the right course. And I went to the end, and I realized this isn't the right thing for me. So I jumped ship to a different course, right? It's that act of realizing that, okay, I've tried this for a period of time. This is not where I see my life going, and I'm going to just jump ship. Like, I'm going to jump ship into something else that feels more right for me.
So it's like adjusting the course as you're walking it, right?
Exactly.
Rather than trying to, like, plan it out and map it out and then take the steps. It's like you just do something and then you slowly adjust yourself as you're moving forward.
Yes. And then only recently, and then I was in another 4-year relationship that didn't work, right? That I wasn't happy in. And it's only recently that I've started to speed up the process. So before, 5 years ago, we might have had this idea for the talk show. It might have taken us 1.5 years or 2 years to get to the point where we filmed our first episode, right? Like, that's where I was back then. But
that's totally where I was too.
Yeah. But I started to realize that the more quickly that I took these risks, the more quickly I would realize if it was the right risk or not, and then I could take a different risk, And the risk itself became what I was searching for.
And then it's not, then if you fail, or if it doesn't go in the direction you think, it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're a failure.
Yeah.
It just means, like, oh, this idea didn't really work, let's try something else.
Yeah, exactly. And I really think it is that first risk that is the hardest. That's why, like, when people are stuck in those relationships that aren't working, they're stuck, and then they'll find that when they finally decide that they believe in themselves enough to see what else life has to offer, that's when things start happening for them, right? But it's taking that leap of faith.
Right. It's same with somebody stuck in a job that they don't like,
yes.
Right? It's like, well, I have an income, and how am I going to pay my bills? And so then they stay just out of comfort and out of fear of, well, what would my life look like? I have friends who in university, they had such big dreams. They were talented and they had these huge dreams. And I look at their lives now and they're just kind of mundane. Right? And they're not miserable, but they're not really happy. And they're just like kind of chugging along. And that's sad for me to see, because I remember them with this huge potential.
And when you are stuck somewhere, I can almost guarantee that it's because the idea of leaving is so overwhelming, because you start to think about all the nitty-gritty details, right? You're not thinking about, you're not thinking about the end result of you being successful and happy and, really thriving in your life. You're thinking about, okay, well, let's say I leave this job. then what if I don't find another job for 2 years?
Right.
What if I eat through my savings? What if this happens? And all these what ifs pile on you and you think, oh, whatever, I'll just stay. It's easier to just stay.
Right.
And so...
But that's the leap of faith that you were talking about. Because trusting that there's some other plan for you that's bigger than a plan that you could have for yourself.
Because if you have something in your heart right now that's tugging at you and that's telling you, maybe this isn't right. This isn't right. This, like, you can kind of feel it. And there's that voice in your head that's kind of like, why is this so hard? Like, this doesn't feel right. And you feel like there's something you need to do. If you have that voice in your heart, usually it's for a reason. Usually it's that you're not tapping into some potential that you could potentially be tapping into.
Right. And the thing is, like, we need leaders, right? We have enough people just doing the same old mundane thing and, like, running on that hamster wheel. The world right now really needs leaders. And as each one of us lives the life that we were supposed to live, we inspire others. I was telling Jena about my son's teacher, his grade 1 teacher, right? She's a teacher, but she's also like this amazing educator, and she's like going to conferences and she's presenting, and she just wrote a book and she has a blog, and she's incredible. Check her out, Miss Learnman Blogspot. She's awesome. Liren man. Liren man. She's awesome. So she is just doing her thing, right? Like, she's not doing it to, like, make an impression on me. I'm just a mom of one of the kids she teaches. But watching her live at that level, like, not just complaining about being a tired, underpaid teacher, but actually pushing through and becoming this, like, leader in education, totally inspired me, right? It's been inspiring me for the whole academic year, and here I am. So thank you, Miss Learnman, because you've inspired me to get here and do the show. She doesn't probably even know that. Well, she does, because I wrote her thank you card. But
before that, she didn't know.
Before that, she wasn't doing it to inspire me. She was just doing her own thing.
And she was just being her.
She was just being her.
Like, the best version of herself possible. And just, like, putting herself out there.
Right.
Her blog could have, like, 1 reader, and she would still be
blogging. Right.
Yeah, because that's the point. And I think you said something really interesting. You said that she's not just complaining. Yeah. And I find that a lot of times when we're stuck, we're doing a lot of complaining. A lot of complaining, right?
Yep.
And there's always a yes, but. Like, there's always a reason that something is not going to work out. And when you decide, like, when you make that commitment to yourself to not complain, like, if I complain about something, then I'm going to do something about it that day.
Right.
Like, if I'm complaining about, you know, how I don't get enough sleep, then that very night, I'm going to do something about it. Because if it's a complaint, that means that you want a solution.
Right.
Some people complain for the fact of complaining, but if you find yourself complaining about something, that means that you're looking for a solution. So start trying out different solutions. The only way you know if something works is if you actually try it.
And maybe fail.
And
failure could be your friend.
Fail. Yeah.
Failure could actually be something that you kind of anticipate to say, you know what, there's a chance I'll fail here, and I'm looking forward to that to see how I can learn and refine my process.
Like that second thing on the checklist. Try it, fail, try again, right? Refine and try again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think
it's time to try, and I think it's time to fail. And write to us about what you tried at and how you failed, and then how you didn't stay down. Yes. How your failure wasn't about just staying down, but that it was about getting back up and doing it again.
And a good activity for you to do might be to think about all the ways that your past failures have led you and shaped you into who you are right now. And actually, you could even think about the time when you were the most brave. You know, like, think about that time you were the most brave and you did something that you never thought you could do. Put yourself right back in that. Because sometimes we think that, oh, we were young. Like, we were young, and, you know, when you're young, you don't really care, and you have nothing to lose. No, that was just a state of mind.
Right.
So if you were in that state of mind once before, you can definitely be in that state of mind again, you know?
Courageous, the word courage comes from the Latin heart. So it's about having that big heart, that big open heart, and just taking the leap.
Yeah.
Today's your day.
Even if it's just going for a walk or writing down, if I were courageous, what would my life be like?
Right. If I was willing to fail, what would my life be like?
Yeah. Think about that. And whatever comes to you, do something towards that goal today. And let us know about it.
Let us know. If you have topics that you want us to talk about in future episodes, leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Share this video if you found it useful. Let your friends know about it.
Please do. And we love to hear from you. We love when you share our videos. We love when you like us. We love when you comment. We are here for you.
Right. So tell us what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And we will see you next week.
Until the other day. Bye.
Bye.